Finally, it's done. Yeah, things are looking rough, I'm not gonna lie to you. Alas, Thomas Frank may be running out of time in North London.
He has to go, blood. He has to go, blood.
If you asked a Tottenham fan most seasons whether they'd take a positional increase in the league table of +3, they'd probably say yes. But if they just finished 17th last season, then maybe 14th this campaign isn't quite gonna cut it. You see, Thomas Frank's Chicken Ball FC actually started the season pretty well, but a complete capitulation in form in the league over recent months has seen them in free fall, despite performing well in the Champions League. In the league though, 1 win in 7, 2 wins in 13, and out of both cup competitions. Critics are calling him the worst Tottenham manager in a decade. Fans of him are calling him nothing. There's no fans of him. That's actually the issue. Tottenham Hotspur are at breaking point. Now, quite frankly, do you see what I did there? Because obviously, Thomas, I think you should subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really does help me out in terms of you guys seeing the videos in future, with YouTube algorithms these days. And of course, make sure to slap the like button. 6,000 likes on this video. Let's get that as the aim. If you want a video made on your club, drop it down in the comment section. In the top one, I will make sure I do. There's not that many likes, though, as far as Thomas Frank is concerned at Spurs. The man has lost the dressing room, he's lost the stadium, and his current record looks like a small Welsh town of 94 inhabitants. You see, Thomas Frank has the worst managerial record right now of any Tottenham boss over the last decade since Juan de Ramos, who was a complete disaster, and at a time really where Tottenham weren't expected to be finishing in Europe quite as regularly. This despite Ange Postecoglou taking Spurs to 17th in the league last season. Ange's points per game in his managerial reign were 1.52, whereas Thomas Frank's right now are 1.42. Their home record is a mess, and he can't even get the weather right.
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Sunny shining, we're playing football.
Bro's under all manner of pressure, and he's doing the weather report like he's Stevie Wonder. It's brightening up right now. Get yourself down to the beach. If that's... Oh, wait, no, that's the report for Magaloo. To be fair, all he's seen is grey skies and dismal displays since he arrived in North London. Thomas Frank is currently 6 points behind his own set-piece coach from last season in the Premier League. Keith Andrews, of course, taking over the vacant job at Brentford after Thomas Frank got the Victoria line from Brentford Stadium. That is insane in its own right. He doesn't have the qualifications to be beating you. That's like losing to the guy that deals with your throw-ins. Tottenham, they're about to get prepped to hire whoever he has currently as his set-piece coach as their next manager for next season. Conor Gallagher came on and made his debut for Spurs in the league, and he got himself a legacy number, which I think is really cool. It's basically the total of players that have ever played for the club, so Conor Gallagher is the 901st player to play in the Premier League for them. I think they're reserving a slightly different one for Thomas Frank at the moment, given recent terroristical tendencies. Poor Pap Sarr's coming back from winning AFCON, and the whole place has descended into anarchy. Let's be honest, the fires were starting to burn before he'd even gone out there. The oven was already left on overnight. There was 6 forks in the microwave. A fire was gonna break out eventually. And look, whilst, Tottenham are going through some bad form at the moment, the recent serious outcry from Spurs fans being after a 2-1 defeat to relegation-threatened West Ham United, at the very least, Thomas is trying to make things happen. You see, he said that in life you have to take risks, because not taking risks is a risk in itself. Oh, whatever, man. Losing like that to West Ham United is the biggest risk of all, because you're risking not even making it out of the stadium. It was disastrous. A disastrous result against the side that is also a disaster. Why is my chair spinning like? What's going on? This result was fucking really shit. Callum Wilson's on pay-as-you-go, pro. He hasn't even got a proper SIM card, and you are losing to him in the last minute. Spurs fans, look, listen, I've got some ideas of how you can get out of this situation. Big ground, yeah? Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Lots of shit going on. They got Mario Kart downstairs or something. I don't really know fully what's going on over there. There's go-karting. They got the cups where the drink goes up into them. There's like a golf course. There's a Westfield shopping centre. You could probably do your taxes in there. But go to the go-karting bit, invite Thomas Frank down, and then throw a banana peel over the back. It takes him out, dislocated shoulder, out of action. Or you could endorse Donald Trump in his actions of taking Greenland off of Denmark. He then has to do conscription and legally join the army out of action. And you might think I'm being over the top in my kind of estimation of what Spurs fans think of their manager right now. But of course, the results have been bad. Like I said at the start of the video, 2 wins in 13. 2 wins since October in the league. It is shocking. They're 14th in a division that is, in fairness, quite close, but the results and performances don't really indicate that they're going to get any better. Again, that West Ham performance was so bad. This is a West Ham team, by the way, that had just lost 3-0 to bottom of the table Wolves and been defeated in a real important relegation scrap game against Nottingham Forest. For Spurs at home to perform as badly and show a complete lack of willingness to attack and be defeated by this West Ham team was absolutely insane. Then you add to that Thomas Frank is drinking out of Arsenal cups and the situation just gets plain out of hand. It's a weird one, right? He seems like a nice guy, Thomas Frank, but he seems like so unbelievably passive that I don't think he'd even really care about a North London derby. I mean, they got absolutely battered in it in the game that they did play against Arsenal earlier in the season. But like, if a fight broke out in a North London derby, he'd call feds. I know that he would. If Christian Romero and Gabriel from Arsenal started just pummeling each other in the centre circle, that sounds kind of crazy, actually. He'd hold both their hands and tell them to get along.
Daddy, chill.
Which is fine for certain jobs, and I think absolutely blessed for like Brentford. You can be like an NPC if you want to be and manage Brentford. That sounds offensive. I don't mean it like that. There's less in terms of external pressures. If you want to be really calm and just get along with everybody and not really have that fire in your belly to like deal with a rivalry as bitter as the North London derby, you can be Brentford's manager. That's absolutely fine, and you can do an amazing job like he did at Brentford. But things aren't working right now. There's been a complete breakdown in communication and respect really with the fans. The board is turning on him slightly, and there's even issues with the players. I mean, the treatment of Matthijs Tel over the last week has been shocking. Don't get it twisted. Matthijs Tel, for all the potential that kid had, or has even still, he's still young, but like when he was at Bayern, right, everyone was like, this kid's the next big thing. And he could still be. He could still be amazing, right? And he's shown flashes of brilliance for Tottenham. I actually think he's been a little bit better in recent times, despite being frustrating for them, you know, in the past. But he's now been removed from the Champions League squad in favour of Dominic Solanke. That in isolation, I don't think is that bad of a decision, because Dominic Solanke has the potential to be much more effective for Spurs. I think Spurs relying on Richarlison as their number 9 is never gonna work. Richarlison is not good enough and is far too frustrating to be a number 9 that you can rely on for a team that needs to compete in Europe. Dominic Solanke came back. We'll talk about the Dortmund game in a second, but he did come back and he did score. I don't think there's an issue with that. The thing that I find crazy is that Thomas Frank was quoted as saying that if he didn't have to take Matthijs Tel out of the Champions League squad, he would have played him and started him against Dortmund. Then why the fuck are you taking him out the squad then? You've got 2 group stage matches left and you're planning to play him in 1. Take somebody else out of the team instead of him then, boss. To be honest, he was probably happy to be removed from the squad because it means he's got to spend less time with the Danish manager. And that leads us nicely onto the Borussia Dortmund game, and maybe even more of a frustrating one for Tottenham supporters. I was actually at this game. I did have a couple people message me saying I swear they'd seen me there. I was there, which probably sounds a bit weird, but I've got a couple friends that are Tottenham supporters. They had a free ticket. They said, did I want to come? I was like, fair enough. Liverpool aren't playing tonight, so I'll go and see the enemy, you know, firsthand. See if I can complete a hate watch live in the ground. But you know what? There was no hate watch to be had because Spurs were absolutely amazing in the first half. They were exciting. They were creative. They played on the front foot. Dortmund obviously went down to 10 men with a slightly harsh, in my opinion, red card. When we saw it in the ground, it kind of did look a bit worse, and on the TV, I think it was a bit harsh. It's high, but anyway, that's not the point of this video. Regardless, Spurs were good before the red card anyway. They'd already taken the lead. They obviously doubled their lead after a little bit with Dominic Solanke then coming on, well, not coming on, but still scoring. And they fully deserved the win anyway. They probably deserved to win by more. Dortmund were shocking, but what happened in the second half will probably frustrate Spurs fans because Thomas Frank then sat back, changed to a 5 at the back, and then just completely suffocated the game. Now, I understand he needs to win this match. If he loses the game and they're not down to 10 men, they just lose 2-0, whatever, he's gone. If they go 2-0 up against a 10-man Dortmund side and then don't win, he's also gone. He had to win the game in this situation and just hold on for a win, but you're playing against a side that have offered absolutely nothing all match. I think Vicario made 1 decent save in the second half, and it was right towards the end. It's this lack of like ambition in matches that I think really disillusions almost Spurs supporters. I mean, it's been a story of the season. They're not entertaining to watch. Spurs are not entertaining. They create barely anything. He has broken the record for the least XG created in a match by Spurs twice this season, and one of the games was in the North London derby against Arsenal. They were absolutely mullered by Bournemouth at the start of the season, and generally speaking, they don't create enough. If you just allow Spurs to have the ball and stop them from playing in between the lines, you will beat them. Like, it's actually insane. Their centre mids will just pass sideways and cannot progress the ball, and overall, it's because the manager himself, he's used to a certain way of playing at Brentford. His Brentford side was extremely difficult to break down, extremely difficult difficult to beat. But now he's gone to a Spurs team that are used to attacking. The fans expect that. The fans are used to it because of Ange Postecoglou's approach. And you have kind of the players to do it as well, you know? I mean, we'll talk about their squad in a second, but they have had some very, very worrying performances this season where they have been absolutely dominated in big games. The game against Chelsea, the game against Arsenal, like I said, the game against Bournemouth are some of the worst attacking displays and attacking underlying numbers that Spurs have ever encountered in Premier League history, probably. And then on top of that, their home record. Like, when there's any level of expectation for Thomas Frank to go out and win a game, Spurs shit the bed. Their home record is atrocious. Like, this is why Spurs fans are falling out of love with him and the club generally at the moment, because they've got to fucking travel halfway across the country if they want to see a decent performance. He also doesn't really speak like a manager at a club of big stature or big grandeur, and opponent fans will sometimes argue that clubs like Spurs, West Ham, Newcastle, maybe their fans are a bit too optimistic of what they expect from the club. You know, Spurs don't have the squad right now to go and win league titles or whatever. They won the Europa League last season and they're still not happy. But I think they still deserve to see some good football. They still have a squad that are club size-wise that should be higher than 14th in the league. They shouldn't be dropping the worst XG numbers of all time against clubs like Arsenal, against Chelsea, or clubs like Bournemouth. And then, you know, if you feel like you've got a manager who he still thinks he's managing Brentford almost, he did an amazing job for the Bees, like a really, really good job for Brentford. He was absolutely perfect for them. But I fear he's not a manager that can deal with the expectation or hype up the players enough at a bigger club than that. In fairness to him, he's also been really unlucky. A part of the reason why Tottenham are performing badly in an attacking sense is they've been missing a lot of their best attackers. Dejan Kulusevski has been out for about 7 years now. Dominic Solanke's missed most of the season, has only just come back. James Maddison's out for pretty much the rest of it. They are ravaged by injuries, generally speaking, across the board, but especially in attack. Richarlison even is out, I'm pretty sure, now as well. So there needs to be a lot of discussion about the medical department and the physios at the club and whether they're doing a good enough job, especially given all the injury crises that happened under Ange Postecoglou as well. And also recruitment. Let's have a look at Spurs' team, yeah? As I said, you know, just generally speaking, they've been kind of unlucky with injuries. But I look at Spurs' team right now. Why is Transfermarkt 403 forbidden? What is going on? All right, well, they've sniped Transfermarkt. They said that website can't exist anymore. Sorry about that, everyone. There's a good squad in theory there, but especially with their attack, I wonder how they got to where they are given the sale of Harry Kane and how much it's downgraded over sort of the last 5 to 7 years. First of all, in goal, Vicario. There's a good goalie there, just makes horrible decisions sometimes, might have ADHD, don't know what's going on, like 25% of the time for him, but the rest of the time is a good shot stopper there. I like their defensive options. Kevin Danzo, I think, has actually been pretty decent for them, given expectations probably of him. Mickey van der Ven and Romero are obviously good centre-backs, and then you've got good wing-backs like Jed Spence and Destiny Udogie. Pedro Porro is also there. But then, like, I don't know, it's like a weird collection of players almost that kind of don't make sense. Midfield, right? Let's talk about midfield. So, Kudus obviously isn't playing at the moment, and I think that's a bit of a miss. Bergvall, I think, is a great player for the future. Madison's obviously been out for time. But there's a lot of midfielders there that don't really progress the ball. I don't mean the ones that I just mentioned, the ones that are fit right now. Like, you've got Pat Mate Sarr, who I like, but is not going to do that job. Rodrigo Bentancur, who I don't like, but is also not going to do that job. Yves Bissouma, who's doing nitrous oxide right now, and is definitely not going to do that job. And Joao Pelinha, who I also don't mind, but is also not going to do that job. It's almost this like magical zone of like they can win the ball back in defense, and then they just hope that the ball ends up with their attackers, and then they score. There's not really anyone who can tie things together. Xavi Simons hasn't really come across like that. He was actually really good against Dortmund, I thought. He's not the exact type of profile that they needed. I think if they'd signed Morgan Gibbs-White, I think their season would be completely different right now if they'd brought him in from Nottingham Forest, but Mr. Marinakis had other ideas. Again, they've been unlucky with the injuries to Dominic Solanke and also Kulusevski, but then I just look at the rest of like their forward options and I'm like, this is like 12th in the league options, legit. I know maybe I'm being harsh because, again, Solanke, Kulusevski injuries, right? But Wilson Odobert, Matthijs Tel at the moment, Richarlison, Randall Kolo Muani with like half a knee to his name at the moment. I don't know, it's just very average, isn't it? Like, you could probably name 10 front threes better than Spurs's in the league, even with Solanke. Is that harsh to say? Maybe that's like an unpopular opinion, but I don't think that's where they shine just personnel-wise, and that ultimately comes down to recruitment, which of course ultimately falls down on the club, but also the ownership. This ownership do not have enough people at the top that know what the fuck football even is. It's been a problem with ENIC for the longest time. They pumped £100 million into the club at the start of the year. Amazing. If you don't have the people in the right roles to actually make that money do something, you know, to actually put that money in the right places, by the right people, then you're not gonna get anywhere with it. And ultimately it falls on the owners, because they're also allowing Thomas Frank, like, just like a lamb to the slaughter, to be absolutely annihilated by Spurs fans on a regular basis. They know that Spurs fans don't want Thomas Frank in charge, but they maintain having him in charge for this blind hope. And I like managers getting a chance. I like managers getting time. And I don't think Thomas Frank is a bad manager. I just don't think he works with Tottenham. It's just two entities that don't go well together right now. You know what? Fine. The league is tight at the moment. Maybe give him another 3 league games. But as things stand, despite the Borussia Dortmund performance in the Champions League, and despite Spurs doing well in the Champions League, this team makes no fucking sense. They're gonna qualify for the knockout stages. They're probably not even gonna have to play the playoff. They're probably gonna actually qualify top 8 in the Champions League. It is just a mess. Spurs fans, let me know what you think down in the comment section. What is the main issue? Is it Thomas Frank? Who would you like as your manager instead? What do you think of the players at the moment? Because I also do think there's quality in there, and they've been unlucky with injuries, like I said, but I still don't know if there's the actual overall quality to take Tottenham fans to where exactly they want to be. That though is going to wrap up today's video. If you have enjoyed, once again, make sure to slap a like on it, and of course subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye. Daddy chill. Did that probably a bit too well.